So I got an email the other day from Hank in Portland, Oregon, and he said, Michael, I've got the shanks. And then help in capital letters with exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. You know what, Hank? You're not alone, and I know exactly what you feel. You feel like your game has gone to the dumps. And you know what? We're going to get you out of the dumps. That's exactly what we're going to do, because there's a lot of people that deal with shanks, and the question is, what causes it? So let's try to understand a couple of things about what causes the shanks. One is face. We can face shank it. Most people face shank with an open face. We don't really see a shut-faced shank. Now, when you have a shut-faced shank, what happens to you is you more are dealing with a path issue than a face issue. Open-faced shanks, you can have a pretty good path, but you just don't have enough room, and I'll explain that in a second, to get the club face through without hitting it in the hosel, okay? So let me show you how you get, first you got to be able to identify what's going on, and then second, what fixes this. So here's what I like to do. You know how I feel about gear ties. I love them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a gear tie. This is a 1-foot gear tie, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap it around the club shaft here. And I'm going to set this so that, and I'm going to stretch this just a little bit. So I'm going to twist this a little bit more. Get it to right there. Now, that and that they're about parallel to one another, okay? Now, when I get in here like this, what I want to try to do is feel like well, not actually solve the problem, but just monitor this right here. If I take the club back and I spin the face of the shaft of the golf club, so now this is now pointing down that line. Yeah, so let's go that 7. That's a great shot. So if I take the club back and I spin the face, now what you're going to see is the face is wide open and my gear tie is pointing right back to the camera here. So we go like this. And we go like that. Some of you will take the club and path out here, so you'll move the path out and away and spin it open. Some of you will take the club and move the club head in and open it. But either way, what you're doing is you're spinning the shaft of the golf club. So when I spin the shaft of the golf club in the backswing, what ends up happening is I have a very small amount of face to strike the ball in. So the face of this golf club is about, let's just say it's 4 inches from the heel to the toe. If I take the club and I spin the face like this from, and I don't know whether you can get a close-up of this, Gibbsy, in the down the line. So if I have the club face wide open like this, from the lowest point right here in the face to the highest point right here in the toe, what I end up getting is not a lot of room to hit the ball in. In order for me to have the center of the club face open, I have to have the club face square. And when the club face is square, now I have a chance. Well, what happens to us is when we take the club back and we spin the face and we don't recover the spin, now all of a sudden we have a very open face and we hit it in the hosel. And what's interesting about the hosel is you can hit it in a variety of different places in the hosel and it's still going to go out to the hosel side or to the push side. And so what you have to do is you have to first identify, do I have a face issue or a path issue? So right now we're dealing with the face. So we take the gear tie, we check out, do I take the club back and open it like this? And you can test this just by videotaping, right? So if I take the club back and I see that gear tie pointing back to the camera, I got a face issue. That's really what's going to create the problem. Now, from here, yeah, you can do a bunch of little different things. You can come over the top. You can do some things that try to recover that open face. But ultimately, the problem is you're spinning the shaft into an open face. And so the drill that you're going to have is you put the gear tie on there. It's pointing directly to this camera right here. And you take it back and you keep pointing it to there. So we go here and there. Try it again. So we take that here and there. And what happens is that when the face of the golf club never opens up, I've got a ton of room to hit this golf ball in. The face isn't spinning open. I have the whole 4 inches of club face to work with there, or whatever the length is of your golf club. And you're going to be able to hit the ball in the center of the club face, and you're going to get rid of that issue. Now, if this thing becomes a face issue, which is what we end up discovering with our little drill, you've got this one drill that can assist you. There's another drill that you can do too. So let me take this off. If you don't want to monitor what's taking place with the club shaft, then what we have to do is we have to figure out, well, how do I do this with my hands? And so this is a simple one. What we do now is we do this with one hand only, the trail hand. And when we take this back, I want you to feel that palm to the ground. So we go back like this and then to the ground. Don't worry about what it does in the follow-through. Just down to the ground and there. And it doesn't even matter if you hit it solidly or not, so long as it doesn't shank. Because what you have to feel when you're doing this is you're going to feel a little bit of the back of the wrist, your trail wrist. You're going to feel a little bit of that bending. And then you're going to feel a very, very clean strike. And it'll also launch pretty lowly. So we're going to launch it pretty low. And now, all we do is we feel that wrist. So trail wrist. So we're no longer dealing with although this deals with the spinning of the shaft, not thinking about spinning the shaft. What we're thinking about is just controlling this with the palm and the trail wrist. So we go here and there. So you let this break to here. Boom, boom. And what you're going to find is a lot of center face strikes. Okay? And now we go into a longer swing. So now we go here and here. This is going to be a long full swing, but we are not going full speed. So here, cup down to the ground, right? So palm, cup, here, and there. And what you're going to notice is, and particularly that shot there, that golf ball launched a little bit to the left, which is exactly what I want you to do. Because what happens to many people who open that face or spin the shaft in the backswing is you now try to recover it. And when you're trying to recover it, sometimes you don't and you shank it. Sometimes you do and you pull it. It's the same thing. It's just this time you actually recovered the face more successfully in the downswing. So that'll be the first place that I'm going to look at. Always look at face first. And face, to me, most important part of the golf swing. Control it. Don't let it open. Control it. And you'll start to get control of your shot shape. And you'll lose that shank. Now, the second one is what we're doing with the path. And when I deal with path, I'm actually going to deal with two things in path. One of the things that I'm going to deal with in the path is the shaft of the golf club. And one of the things that we'll deal with is the face of the golf club. Both of them are paths. But when we deal with the shaft, now I've got another little different drill that I have. And what I've done is I've got a little gear tie that's coming off of this. And I set that down in that fashion there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the shank. So if I'm here, my shaft is hitting that gear tie. The ball, in effect, would be about there. And so you can see at that point, I've got the ball in the center of the face, but the gear tie is touching the shaft, which means if I get into this spot here, I'm going to hit it in the hosel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it just away from that. And now all I'm going to do here, assuming that I've got the right face, all I'm going to do is just feel like that club is, and I say club, I'm talking club shaft, that club shaft is going to miss the gear tie. Okay? So I'm dealing with the shaft itself. I've got a good face position is fine. And now all I'm doing is just feeling the shaft of the golf club missing that. And again, if I turn my club upside down, this is what I'm doing. I'm just feeling like the shaft is going to miss that gear tie. And now I come through here, shaft misses the gear tie. And when that happens, I can't hit a shank. So that's another straight shot. So you start to deal with what's happening with the shaft. Finally, when we start dealing with the face of the club, now I have yet another device, the shoebox. One of my favorite things to do, and I use this a lot. You can use a water bottle in this drill. You can use almost anything. A head cover works nicely, and you've probably seen this drill on a handful of occasions. And what you're going to do, just so I like to use the shoebox just because it kind of stays where you want it, particularly in the indoor environment. So I measure the toe off of the box. So if I put the ball right there, that club would hit the box, and that one there, if I hit the box, it hits the hosel. So now I come off of that box and it gets to the center of the face. So now my focus is this. What I want to do is I want to swing and miss the box. Not I want to hit the ball. I want to swing and miss the box. Again, assuming that the club face is fine, if I miss the box, I'm not going to hit a hosel rocket. And there's a good shot. And this is ultimately, for me, this is probably, and I think you'll find this, the most freeing of all these exercises. You're just swinging as fast as you want to swing, and you're not going to hit the box. And when you miss the box, you'll hit the ball in the center of the face. Let's do one more. I'll give this a little bit more speed. And one of the things that you might be asking yourself is, well, how do I know if this is my problem? And the answer is as follows. If it's not the face, it has to be the path. If it's not the face, it has to be the path. And at that point, you're just dealing with how you visualize the path. Do you visualize the path with the shaft of the club, or do you visualize the path with the face of the club? Doesn't matter to me. You have to figure that out. But that's why you always start with the face. Start with the face first, and then the path. There will be some of you that will go, well, my path comes over the top. Well, then miss the box. Because if I come over the top like this, I'm going to rip into that box. Now I know I'm going to hit that, but you're going to miss the box. So we get in here like this. I'm going to give this a little heat. So there's a good clean strike, very solid hit. Does it get in the basket? Almost. It went the exact distance that I wanted it to go, 117 miles an hour of ball speed. That flew 176 yards. So very, very simply put, you got a shank issue. You have to identify whether or not it's a club face or it's a path. So you always start with the club face. Get yourself that gear tie. Wrap it around the shaft. Check and see if you're spinning that face open. Doesn't matter whether it's going straight back, whether it's going inside or it's going outside. If you're spinning that club face open, now we got a face issue. And then once you're done with the face, then we start to deal with the path. And how do you see the path? Do you see it with the shaft? Do you see it with the club head? So you look at both of those two things, you'll eventually figure out, okay, this is the one that works for me. And then you got to practice. It's one of the most important things that you can do. You got to develop a skill, and you got to get rid of this skill that has somehow crept into your game, okay? Look at it in one of those ways, and when you do, you'll solve your problem, and you'll get rid of the shanks.